All right, we are live. Man, it is truly an honor tonight to be in the presence of such talented people. I've been promoting it for about 2 weeks now, and it's really happening. I'm so excited. I'm Two Chains. I'm the host of the Big Go Belt podcast. I am, of course, here with my co-host here, Will Mahoney. He's one half of the Snack Society YouTube channel, and he's my pal. What's going on, Will?
What is going on, man? We have quite the round table here tonight, which is perfect timing because I think we got a lot going on right now in the world of wrestling.
Yeah, it is. There's no lies there, man. Look, I gotta nail these intros real quick because this has to set the tone. But we do have 3 special guests tonight. Oh, man. First off, starting off from the show that keeps wrestling real, he is the king of talk style. He is from the Rant with Ant podcast, Anthony DeStefano. Let me get the last name right.
Yeah, it's Italian.
DeStefano.
There you go. There you go. I get my name
buddy?
Butcher. What's up, brother?
How you feeling, man?
Good to be on the show. I'm excited, man. We got a great crowd. We got like really good people.
We do, man. That's a hell of a collection behind you too, dude.
Oh, thank you. It's okay. It's my wife doesn't like it because she doesn't get anything anymore because I buy action figures like I'm fucking 6 years old, but whatever.
Well, we do appreciate it here. So we'll bail you out whenever you get in the doghouse.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll probably be soon because I just got 5 new figures, which is about $115 right there. So it'll be fun. If you have money for groceries, no, but I got a Ruby Riot figure. You want to see it?
I'm still looking for that one. You can help me out there.
Yeah, Target, man.
Oh, moving on to the next star of the night. He's from the Chairshot.com, where whenever you tune into that website, you must use your head. He is Dave Meltzer's best friend, Greg DeMarco. Come on, Greg, talk to me, buddy.
Here we go.
I think he's on mute.
Last night. Can you hear me now? I was muted.
Yeah, I hear you, buddy.
That's what I do. He comes after me last night while I'm on the air, and he doesn't know that, obviously, but he decides to come after me. He blocked me, so now he ain't seen anything that I tweet anymore. But yeah, it's all good, man. We do our thing. We want to do it, and it's going to be tonight. So thank you for bringing me on. I'm excited to join you guys. The esteemed roundtable that I'm going to try to drag down just a little bit.
Hey, man, I don't know, man. True friendships go through things, and somehow you make it back together. So good luck to you and Dave for the future, man.
I'll invite you guys to the wedding. It'll be Billy and Chuck style. It'll be great.
Now, here's a quick question. Will he wear his True Religion jeans to the wedding? Because that dude tucks T-shirts in the True Religion jeans. It happens.
That would be in the prenup if the wedding comes to pass. There ain't no way we're doing it without that. Come on now.
Oh, man. And last but not least, he is the host of What the Tech Show, the Matt Men from the Matt Men Pro Wrestling Podcast, which is you can find on the Guys from Queen Podcast Network. He is, as he calls himself, Mr. 75%. Andrew Zarian, and I believe currently right now, if I'm not mistaken, you currently hate everything in pro wrestling. Is that true?
I don't hate everything in pro wrestling. I'm enjoying pro wrestling. I think you're going based on last week's show. I said when I hate everything about pro wrestling, I'll never do another show again. But you did get one part right. I am Mr. 75%, and that's coming from my wife. My wife says I'm Mr. 75%.
Wow.
Here, my wife calls me Mr. 3 inches. I don't know why. I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't know why though.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I'm here. Listen, I rushed here from the city. I was on the train. I was on the Long Island Railroad with a bunch of degenerates heading back. I'm drinking my tall boy, my 24 ounce of Budweiser, like a typical guy from Queens, and I'm here right now. I'm having some really cheap white wine.
We appreciate you coming too. That sounds like 100% effort too. By the way,
I just popped the sleeping pill and I'm having some white wine. I'm letting it ride on this podcast. We'll see what happens.
Well, we hope we can keep you interested for the next hour.
Let's see. It's a nice game I play with myself too. If Andrew could stay up.
Man. Well, that is our All-Star Roundtable cast for tonight, man. We got a ton of topics to start about. And with all the things that's going on in wrestling, all roads are pretty much leading into WrestleMania weekend, which is going to be in New York. And with that, there's always a bunch of change and shifting in, the whole landscape of the wrestling world. So tons to talk about. But I think, well, fitting. I think the most, maybe the hottest topic of the week, I think we should start off with is actually some unfortunate news. Unfortunate in the way you guys probably not going to think it's unfortunate, maybe. But first off, I'm gonna start off by saying rest in peace to George Animal Steele, right?
yeah, Kurt and Enzo.
Yeah, Kurt and Enzo. No, but King Kong Bundy, who recently passed, and with his passing, it did bring a lot of spark, which typically when anyone passed who has a really prominent career in wrestling, a lot of people come out and start wondering and questioning why this person is not in the Hall of Fame. And you know, untimely death, you know, you can't predict that, and however it may be. So obviously it is around Hall of Fame season. So of course people are basically saying, you know, they should have him in already, whatever. He did headline in WrestleMania 2. But you know, that's besides the point. But I'm curious to know from you guys, like we talk about Hall of Fame, what would you say should be or would be some requirements upon entering or being in the Hall of Fame? And anyone can jump in there first.
I would say
0.
Yeah, so I would say a couple of championships, your impact on pro wrestling. Like, I get that, like, you know, Rikishi, he won the Intercontinental Championship. He had a good run there for a little bit. I would say he's like bottom tier of what should be in the Hall of Fame. That, you know, like you have your heavy hitters that win titles, that have been, you know, Grand Slam champions, that have been multi-time heavyweight champions. Obviously they should be in, but I think the Hall of Fame in wrestling, like, I hate the celebrity wing. Like, it's pro wrestling. Why is Kid Rock in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame? So I mean, at that point anything goes. Like, maybe I'll get inducted this year, I don't know, but I think there should be standards, and I think that would be cool. Like in baseball, if you hit 500 home runs, you punched your ticket to the Hall of Fame. Maybe if pro wrestling did something, you win 5 world championships or 5 championships combined, you punched your ticket to the Hall of Fame. Make it fun, make stats matter. You know, Randy Orton's a 13-time champion. For why? Well, what does he get? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they should be like, oh, he's punched his ticket, he's already a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that's who wants to go? Somebody else go first. One of our guests.
All right, I'll go. I'll jump in. So to me, it's hard because the Hall of Fame it's for professional wrestling, which is a work, which is a show. And that's what the Hall of Fame is anyway. And that's why I don't put as much stock in it as most people do. It's hard to put a number to that because some title reigns are done for storyline purposes, not because someone quote unquote earned it or quote unquote deserved it. But I guess if there was maybe an official committee and not just the mind of Vince McMahon and the mind of Triple H, but a committee sat down and evaluated whether or not someone was Hall of Fame worthy, I could see that happening. I also think, to me, it's about the reaction. If somebody says, you know, Rikishi, and you don't have a reaction to that, then is Rikishi a Hall of Famer? Exactly. If someone says Ahmed Johnson and your reaction is all negative, is Ahmed Johnson. But if someone says Shawn Michaels, everybody immediately knows, oh yeah, Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, he's Mr. WrestleMania, the showstopper. And to me, I think that reaction should go. So maybe less like baseball and more like football, where they look at the impact. Like a committee, like I do like the committee idea. Just don't put Bret Hart on it, because the only people who get in is like the Hart Foundation, Bret the Hitman Hart. Like, he'll put himself in every year. Triple H won't get in. You know, Seth Rollins is doomed from the get go.
No, listen, I think there's multiple tiers to the WWE Hall of Fame. First of all, it's all worked, right? And they're not only attempting to produce some sort of pro wrestling Hall of Fame, but they're also trying to produce a entertaining show. In the history of wrestling, if you really think about it, how many are they doing this year? 7, 8, right?
It's usually about that, about 8 people.
About 8 people. Only up to 3 about now. But yeah.
I don't think you have enough to sustain a, let's say, 20-year Hall of Fame induction if you were to go to, you know, the people that are naturally deserving. They do the celebrity one just to get the media coverage. You know, it's Drew Carey comes to mind every time I think about the Hall of Fame, on the fact that Drew Carey's in it. But you know what? Cyndi Lauper's not in it, and she played an instrumental part in the, you know, in the 80s boom. So I think it really has to do with politics, obviously, number one. Number two, I'm shocked King Kong Bundy is not in it. I honestly, I would have taken the bet, and I would have thought he was in it. Obviously, that's maybe political, right? I don't know what kind of terms he was
Did
on.
we all kind of feel the same about the Honky Tonk Man? Like, didn't everyone just assume like the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in the Hall of Fame?
You know what's crazy? This is his third attempt. Their third attempt to get him in.
Really?
Yeah, he's turned it down before. That
Twice.
is true. I've heard that.
Twice. Yeah, twice he turned it down.
I've heard some great stories about Honky Tonk Man. So.
The number of zeros on the check were not enough to get him in. Yeah.
Did you guys ever do you guys listen to like Talk and Shop with Chris Jericho and Gallows and Anderson?
Oh, dude, that Gallows story is one of the funniest.
When he's like, when he didn't know what to say to Honky Tonk Man, he was like, kind of green in wrestling, and they threw this big party, and he went up to Honky Tonk Man. He was like, "Man, nice event that we're having tonight, huh?" And Honky Tonk Man looks at him and goes, "It's coming out of your check, you fucking mark." It's like one of the best stories I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, that's awesome. That's freaking awesome. No, I think in reality, when we think about a Hall of Fame, we're thinking the most worthy people to enter it. But in reality, it's an entertainment piece for them, and they got to kind of fill in spots. So you got maybe 2 spots that are deserving, a third that's a mid-range guy, the celebrity one, and then the rest is just filler.
I think Andrew's very much on the right track with that. They're very much concerned with producing a show for a whole night and having different tiers of people and also different eras represented. They're not trying to just have all 80s stars. They're trying to have 90s stars. And now we're even trying to get into the 2000 era with someone like Tori Wilson. They kind of have their different demographics they do every one where it's okay. We got to have a woman. We got to have probably one. They don't like to have too many guys that passed on. So usually we try only do like one deceased person. So they're not bringing up, they want people actually there who will show up to give speeches. So there's all these moving parts involved. I love the idea of some kind of committee or some kind of measuring stick. So it's not just a matter of, oh, this is who we could get this month. And this is who Vince is on good terms with. So they're in, which is what it is now. The key word I would say for me is fame. In the Hall of Fame, there should be a level of fame that you've reached. And that's not always necessarily through titles or through longevity. And I'll use this person as an example. I'll use Bill Goldberg as an example, where that's someone who for about 2 years was absolutely white hot in WCW and was like the king of the darn world pretty much as far as that company went. But it was only about a 2-year span. Rest of the time, he was a guy, but he disappeared for years. He didn't actually have, a ton of years in the business. But for those 2 years, Bill Goldberg was, as they said, the man. So that's a level of fame. If you reach that kind of level of fame, I think that kind of trumps a whole lot of other stuff as far as titles or championships or great matches or any of that kind of stuff. So for me, fame is the key word in the Hall of Fame.
You mentioned Tori Wilson, 2019 class of Hall of Fame. How you guys feeling about the people that's already been announced? And if beyond that, who else do you think should or will get in this year?
I don't have I know like Twitter was in an uproar about Tori Wilson and what I don't give a shit. Like you guys said, it's a hall of who's popular in Vince's eyes is what it is. And Tori Wilson's a blonde, and of course he's like, "Oh yeah, Tori, we're that." He's like foaming out the mouth. He might have dropped her.
She's gonna look great on that stage.
Yeah, So like I don't care. Like she played a big part in what women's wrestling was, and I know we moved on for that. Thank fucking God we moved on from that. But she was a big part of that era. She had the fame. She was on magazine covers. She was pretty much a promoter's dream. She was everywhere. So of course you're going to put her in your Hall of Fame. So I don't know what the big deal with that is. Degeneration X, that's great. Obviously Triple H gets in for the first time. He'll be in as a 2-timer. HBK becomes a 2-timer. China should have got in individually as being, the first woman to win the Intercontinental, title, stuff like that. But this is a stepping stone. So she's in it with the X and her foot's in the door and her name can be in the Hall of Fame. So I like the class so far. The Honky Tonk Man is everyone knows the Honky Tonk Man, from every era of wrestling fans. So I think they're doing a good job. I get Twitter just likes to be mad at something.
Oh, it.
Well, wait till next week when they announce Brutus Beefcake.
Oh yeah, right.
Right.
Wait till next week.
You know, it's funny you brought up the whole point about Triple H, because Triple H, he's the first person who's going in with the group first. Yeah. You know, Flair went in and then the Horsemen went in. And China, I don't think China goes in after this, because I think when you're in, you're in. You know, when you're in, you're in. And for Triple H, I think he's kind of following the Vince McMahon lead, because Vince won't let them put him in the Hall of Fame. And I feel like Triple H is going the same direction with that. So he may go in as Triple H, or he may go with DX. He may go in with Evolution. I don't know that he goes in as Triple H until he's done, maybe done walking around the earth. So just because I feel like he's going to take Vince's lead in that regard until he's not sitting in the chair.
I always thought, why go in? Once you're in, you're in. Loophole to get Owen Hart in. Just put the Hart Foundation in.
Yeah,
and there's your loophole to get Owen Hart in. You know what I mean?
If the family lets him, and that's all about the family.
You don't even have to say Owen's part of it. Just the Hart Foundation. Now Owen's we all know.
Put him in the video package.
You know,
but that is interesting, right? You bring up Owen. I think he's a great example of politics not allowing him in.
He's my favorite wrestler of all time. So
me too. One of my favorites of all time.
I cry my eyes out, and I'm there.
And someone that's so deserving of it. You know, it was a total tragedy what happened to him and how he passed away. But when you look at somebody that was Hall of Fame worthy without really any kind of titles other than the tag title. Well, he had European and tag, right? He had the
Intercontinental, and actually he did.
He did have the IC.
This is my random Owen Hart fact. He actually won the World Heavyweight Championship at a house show, but they forfeited it, and the next night Bret Hart came out with it on Raw and everything.
By the way, also you guys said Triple H so many times that my Stevie Richards action figure collapsed. I mean, I think we reached the quota at this point.
Was there anything more like annoying than hearing Triple H keep saying Richard Fleer this week? If you say it one more time, bro, come on.
But you know it's WrestleMania season when they break out the real names.
Like he couldn't allow himself to be Paul. He couldn't call himself Paul.
He's like, I'm not Triple H. Then say your name. You just fucking
I was thinking the same thing. It's funny what Gray brought up. I actually think China will be probably the only woman to be inducted into the Hall of Fame twice, considering that she was in that stable. And I think it'll be a tragedy if she doesn't get in solo. And then another person, you bringing up Owen Hart, one of my favorite wrestlers who will never. I don't even know will any of us be allowed when he gets in. But Chris Benoit is easily well deserving accolades wise in professional wrestling.
You want to base stuff off of how they represented your company. Now, say Chris Benoit was part of your podcast and he did what he did. Would you be like, hey, Chris Benoit used to be part of our podcast? Yeah. Like, no, fuck that guy. Yeah. I don't know Chris Benoit. Who's that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, Chris is another great example, right? Because accolades and athletic ability, sure. Other than the murder-suicide that happened, but that's a very difficult thing to overlook.
Outside of that last weekend.
I was just gonna say we're not gonna mention CTE here, right? That's like the death penalty for any big brand or promotion. And they said he had like 3 or 4 times the average person of a
he had the brain
player.
of an 80-year-old Alzheimer's patient. Yep. So he was obviously it took a toll on him, but still, how could they prove that it was just like chair shot?
Yeah.
Getting dropped in your head. The guy was roided out of his mind.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I want to go back to the China thing real quick, because it kind of depends on the ceremony. If they make the DX induction, everybody reacting about China, she may get such a big moment in this induction ceremony, and they may make it more about her than just about DX as a whole, that it might make an individual induction pointless. Like it really depends on the presentation come the Saturday before WrestleMania. If she's an afterthought, then you put her in separately. But if they make a big deal out of it, what the hell's the point?
That's a good point.
Very true. Good point, very true.
Also, too noteworthy is that the Hall of Fame is on Friday this year.
Saturday.
Yes.
It's on I'm sorry. It's a switch from Friday to Saturday.
Flip.
Yeah. And I didn't go to the Hall of Fame last year, but I'm guessing because it's such a snooze fest last year. I guess this is a way to.
The only time I'd go is for like Owen Hart or maybe The Rock. I can't even. Like it. I don't know. I can't sit there for 7 hours and hear these people. Who was it? Larry Sabisco who kept talking about the fucking bushes. Like he talked about the bushes for like 35 minutes. I'm like, bro, I'm not in landscaping class. I don't care.
I thought you were talking about the former presidents.
No, he kept,
I thought that it actually made a little bit of sense in
What-
tying it in with wrestling. You know,
wasn't Larry Zbyszko talking like? Wasn't it about? Was it Bruno Sammartino? He's like, and he came through the bushes, and it was I don't know.
Oh
who
yeah,
he-
when he met him to learn how to wrestle. Yeah,
Oh,
Awesome.
yeah.
that's right.
Oh boy.
another
You know-
made up story.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Bruno Sammartino's just walking through the fucking forest. Hey, you want to learn how to wrestle?
Hey, Larry, come here. Let me teach you how to arm lock. You know?
Hold on, let me move this hibiscus real quick to my way.
Let's get into our second topic for tonight. So this one has been hot for a couple of weeks, and I think after this week of events in WWE programming, it's a lot of news buzzing around about it. But obviously Dean Ambrose here. So officially from the WWE website a couple of weeks ago, saying that he will not be renewing his contract with WWE once it expires in April. Which I feel, and I believe anybody would agree, is that is absolutely a rare approach by WWE to report something of that like. But turns out Roman Reigns is in remission. He comes back. They are a full-blown Shield reunion moving forward into the next pay-per-view. And news backstage is that maybe Dean Ambrose may be changing his mind. Nonetheless, I want to know from you guys, how do you think this all plays out? And what other news and information do you have on this topic? I want to point this one to Greg here.
So, interesting fact that I'm going to start off with. First off, I never thought he was leaving. I never thought he was leaving the company.
Yeah.
I don't believe that he might not take a break, because I could see him wanting one. Plus, he was out for 9 months. We know Vince likes to use that injury clause on people, Rey Mysterio, to keep them under contract at least. So I don't know that he would ever leave and go somewhere else, although there might be some benefit in it. You know, something that no one's talking about that people missed? I don't know if it was after last week's Raw or the week before. You know, it was out there for like an hour. They announced Dean Ambrose versus Drew McIntyre for WrestleMania and said that it was going to be his last match, and then they deleted all references to it like right after. And it was kind of, which they've done before. You know, remember they announced Becky versus Asuka for Royal Rumble, then they got rid of it. They announced Alexa Bliss versus Mickie James, then they got rid of it. I remember seeing it, and then I went to find it the other day because I was like, did I dream this? And like, I know I saw it. It had the logo, and it talked about how it was going to be his last appearance. And I don't know if Roman coming back changed that or whatever it might be, but obviously something changed, and that's okay, because I don't think they expected Roman to be not just back, but then to be able to physically compete, which obviously he can do, and thank goodness for that. But it's I think he might take a break. I originally thought he was going to disappear after WrestleMania and then return at the 2020 Royal Rumble. Now, that's just my own opinion. I have no insider knowledge to back that up. That's just what I would see happening. It's probably more of a fantasy book than anything else. But if he's there, great. Just figure out something to do with him. That's all.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'm fortunate enough. I have a couple mutual friends with Jonathan Good, not Dean Ambrose, from him wrestling around the Philadelphia area and wrestling for companies like Force One Pro Wrestling, CZW, stuff like that, where they know how he is. And everyone that I even asked, even if they don't talk to him anymore, all they said is that guy loves pro wrestling. That was the whole argument, is he loves pro wrestling. That was the whole thing that they based everything around. They don't think he would leave. If he left WWE, he would not leave pro wrestling. I do not see him leaving WWE. I think they're going to start giving him what he wants. I think he saw an opening, which he should, where his creative direction wasn't what he was looking for. You know, he doesn't want to be the guy who has a pet plant. He doesn't want to be the guy spraying ketchup and mustard on people. He wants to be taken a little bit serious, because look at his counterparts in that faction. Roman Reigns is the face of your company. Seth Rollins is the best wrestler on your roster, and they're treated like so. Dean Ambrose is the third member of the Shield, and he's treated like so. He doesn't have that star power. He had it there for a little bit. Like, I'll never forget the match. I think it was at Roadblock or Fastlane against Triple H before Mania, and that was the height of Dean Ambrose's star. And I know he won a title after that, but they never treated him like he was a champion, like he was a former champion. And I think maybe that got to him because that guy loves pro wrestling. So I don't think he's going anywhere. I think Roman coming back, them doing the Shield, this is all what Dean wants to stay. This is what he needs. he wants his palate, clean so he can start fresh and do this the right way. And maybe this is the start of it, because I love this I don't give a shit Dean Ambrose that we've gotten the last 5 weeks, because that's very much, and I hate making this correlation, it's very much what John Moxley used to be. He didn't give a shit. And I love that side of Dean Ambrose, and I think they're having a lot of fun with it. So hopefully he stays. I could see him leaving and coming back. I mean, the guy almost died, and his best friend had leukemia. Put your life in perspective a little bit. Maybe him and Renee want to start a family. Who knows the reason? But I don't see him leaving wrestling, and I think he'll be back if he leaves by Royal Rumble 2020 as well.
No, and perfectly said there. It's a really weird thing how the WWE has handled it, and for them to put out a press release and actually respond to emails, to me that means that he was actually leaving. WWE PR doesn't incorporate, and especially in 2019, the last thing they want to do is kayfabe the mainstream audience, the mainstream news organization like TMZ, which they do work, but NBC Sports was reporting on it, ESPN reported. So all these sports-based news groups reported on this. They don't appreciate getting worked. I genuinely think he was leaving, and this may have been some sort of negotiation tactic where WWE said, you know what, you want to leave? We'll leave on good terms. You go ahead, knowing that maybe Roman is coming back and that could persuade him. I think if he does leave, for someone like AEW to pick him up would be a tremendous asset.
That is Scott Hall leaving. That's Razor Ramon leaving. Like
sure.
That is
by today's standard.
That's that catalyst for people. Like, my dad's a casual viewer. If I say Kenny Omega, my dad doesn't know who Kenny Omega is.
Right.
Yeah.
Young Bucks, he doesn't know who they are. I mean, he knows because I talk about them. But if I say, hey, Dad, Dean Ambrose just went to AEW, and he's gonna tune in. It's just millions of viewers.
Yeah.
Millions across the world. Dean Ambrose is in probably your second greatest faction of all time, but behind DX, the most decorated faction of all time, title wise. That guy leaves your company. You can't do the Shield anymore.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
I think for WWE, they obviously they're going to make a play at this, and I don't think the people that have reported him as 100% leaving are wrong. I think at this moment he's possibly leaving. There is talks now back to, I think Brian Alvarez reported on it. But I think he said that people backstage believe that he's staying. Dave Meltzer said, as far as WWE goes, it's still on that he's leaving. So the original plan for him for Mania was him and Roman. At Mania.
He was going to turn on Seth first and then get Roman at Mania.
I'm still somewhat anticipating that to be the match.
Yep, same here.
And what a great send-off, right? If it is Dean's last match, him and Roman have this unbelievable match. Even if it's not his last match and he goes away just for a little bit, I think him and Roman would be able to put on a WrestleMania caliber match together. And
I love that you're saying that, because the Shield are my favorite faction of all time. Those three guys are my favorite current wrestlers. The one thing I haven't got out of the Shield, I've gotten Seth versus Dean. I've gotten Seth versus Roman. We've never seen a Roman Dean feud. So it hits that, wow, this is fresh, this is new.
Yeah.
And I think as much as I went crazy when I was in Philly, when the Shield got back together, this week, I'm just as excited to see what happens Sunday night if Dean turns on him or not.
My one problem with that idea is the way these past few months have been for Dean while Roman was gone. That turn that he just went through was just a train wreck of a disaster as far as how it was handled, and it just never catching fire.
Oh, which turn? The turn back into a face, or back into a heel, or back into a face?
The turn when he burned the vest and everything when Roman left. So we'll go back to that one.
That was the one good promo of that whole thing. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, you burnt the vest. And then the next week he's like, I'm at the doctor's getting shots in my ass. I'm like, where? What kind of turn?
A gas mask.
Yeah, Vince is like, he's got a shot in his ass. It's like, okay, Vince.
Once it became he got a new winter coat and a gas mask, it was like, okay, come on now.
I was waiting for him to start talking like Bane.
Right.
Yeah. That the Bane cosplay just was not working.
I was born into the darkness. I was waiting for him to give that whole line.
Listen, when you look at a guy like them, like the Shield, for example, right? When they first debuted, the weak link, according to everybody, was Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
That was the big concern because he didn't really cut promos, and he ended up becoming the breakout star.
Yeah.
You know, he did a tremendous heel turn. He made a breakout star. Roman, everybody knew he was going to be a big star. Dean was a little bit of a disappointment for people because they didn't execute him right from the beginning. They gave him that title run, and they freaked out from that Steve Austin interview. You know, they started second guessing it.
And that's the thing. But as an interviewer, like, why didn't Steve Austin pick up that Dean Ambrose wanted the interview to be about Dean Ambrose, and Stone Cold kept going back to Jonathan Good? So you were poor growing up. So, and it's like Dean did not want to talk about that. When do you pick up on social clues that maybe you should go a different direction with this interview? And I don't put that on Ambrose. I've always put that on Austin because I've interviewed people before, and sometimes, you know, you can tell questions that they don't like, and you have to steer it a different way. And that's just being a respectful interviewer.
Yeah, that interview was really. I always felt when they made Dean a solo star, when they broke everyone off, they never did enough for him to define who Dean Ambrose was. They immediately just gave him that branding of unstable, and it was just like I remember immediately I was just like, okay, he's unstable. Why? What makes him unstable other than he has a shirt on that says unstable?
They went with a totally wrong Batman character because since Dean Ambrose, since the John Moxley promos I used to see, I said, that guy reminds me of the Heath Ledger version of Joker.
Yeah.
Why do you not go with that? Instead, you gave him Bane? What? Like, what? I don't. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so, my only concern would be, just to finish up the point on Dean Ambrose, was just that they just flipped him back to now the Shield to do this reunion this weekend. And it would just feel, to me, I think it'd be so damaging just to flip it back again right to where we were, just so they could do a Shield reunion for the one weekend, essentially, is what it would come down to. My theory has been all along that I don't think he's leaving. It's never been WWE's MO to tell people 3-4 months in advance, hey, this guy's not going to be renewing his contract in April, but we're telling you this in January. Now, whether that was the case all along, I don't know. But this week, when they officially said it on TV for the first time, when Michael Cole brought it up, to me, that was the big tell for me personally, where I'm like, okay, if they're talking about this on TV, this is a storyline now. I don't think he's going anywhere.
You got to remember, Michael Cole used his sad voice when he reported it. So it has to be real.
It's serious business. Yeah, serious business.
You know what I hate is that his wife sits up there on commentary, and they're like, well, she's like, I don't know nothing about Dean Ambrose. It's like, can you just say I'm not talking about it?
Like, obviously, you know.
Like, I haven't spoken to him in about 8 months.
It's not like, hey, honey, how was your day at work? Oh, I fucking hate it. I'm leaving the company. Like, every day I get home from work, it's the same question for my wife. How was work today? Like, so you don't have that conversation, Renee? Like, just say, I'm not telling you. That's none of your business.
I would appreciate that more if she said that. If she said, because look, the pillow tells all. Like, pillow talk is you tell everything when you're there.
That is true.
She knows, but that's, you know, again, commentary's produced, and so it's so hard to say and so hard to see where they go. Did you guys see it? I tweeted it out too, just completely to tie it up. The picture of the Shield reunion. Why are Seth and Roman yawning? Like, it just looks like they're yawning. So I know they're not. And people think I'm busting on it. Like, I don't want to see it happen. I know they're not yawning, but it looks like they are. Like, that's the picture that's a screen grab you took, is of these guys with their mouths open.
It
like,
looks better as a GIF. I will say that, because it does kind of look like they're really tired, and maybe they just watched the Dean Ambrose match. I don't know. But
my joke was Seth yawned, and then yawning's contagious. So then Roman yawned.
You're talking about it, and I want to yawn right now.
They say if you don't yawn when other people yawn, you're a sociopath. Dean didn't yawn, so it all makes sense.
Well, he's unstable.
He's unstable. See, now we established the character. We just did better than WWE did by yawning.
It's very funny that Corey Graves is always the one asking Renee Young about what's happening behind closed doors in their relationship.
Yeah, right.
Like he has much leverage.
Although I was hating Corey for a little bit until Leo Rush interrupted Alexa Bliss about to show Finn something. He was like, "Oh, he's the worst. Go away." Because I think everyone thought that at the same time.
We played that soundbite on our show every week since that happened, just because. So Corey Graves make it when he's like, "Go away, Leo, go away." It's the greatest thing ever, because that's what everybody was thinking, and there are guys in their basement using that soundbite on a daily basis. So.
Maybe you guys can collaborate this. I did see some rumors basically saying that Ambrose was booked for some house shows after WrestleMania. Anybody hear anything about that?
Yeah, and then they took it down immediately, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
We don't know because these tweets and these promos are set like months in advance, months in advance. So, even the main events, the card's always subject to change. Like they promoted something for Atlantic City. I went to a house show on Saturday, and I mean, maybe one match was the same because things changed. So they put this stuff out so far in advance that maybe they didn't know Dean Ambrose was leaving, and they just thought he was staying.
I don't know if you guys heard the same thing, but
so
that's a great example.
That never happened either.
I heard his contract. It was ending at the end of April, so sometime at the last week of April would have been the end of his contract.
I'm surprised that they put it out there, but maybe it was to stop all the press because during that week, I mean, that's when AEW was so fresh. You know what I mean? They just had the pep rally and all that stuff, and everybody wanted to leave to go there. So maybe they did it. Maybe they're trolling. Maybe they're like, "Hey, AEW, look, here's the carrot. We're gonna dangle it in front of you, take it away from you." Who knows?
I think worst case scenario, his contract was ending. He didn't make a decision. They probably said, "Look, you're thinking about it. We're at least going to get something out of this and make it into something, and then take it where it goes." And that's because if he stays, it's a story. If he goes, it's a story. It's a story no matter what you do. Yeah. I think they played it well.
Right on. All right, let's talk about some more interesting things that's happening in the personnel office with WWE. So we've been talking about a lot of departures, but obviously there's been some hirings, some firings, all types of shiftiness with call-ups and all types of stuff like that. So obviously, recently, TJP, Ty Dillinger, Hideo Itami, Arn Anderson all left or been fired with the rehiring of Bruce Pritchard. And obviously the most questionable person where I'm just going to just throw it right at you guys right now, Dana Warrior being hired in the creative department. What do you guys make of that? What is the rationality behind that? I don't see the big picture here, so I really need to know.
She's not on creative. They've hired her almost like an apprentice.
It's like an internship. Almost.
It's almost like it's almost like an internship for her right now, where she's kind of learning how they do it to add a female perspective. I've actually heard a lot of positive stuff about her. Nothing as a writer. I don't know how well of a writer she is. I mean, it's possible she could be a brilliant writer. We don't know that. But a lot of people are very worried that she has this seat on creative and she has no writing background. It's almost like an apprenticeship or an internship, like you guys said. Listen, maybe she's good, maybe not. Maybe they do a 60-day trial. If she sucks, she sucks. They did it with, didn't Foley's kid do an apprenticeship also? And I don't know. I don't think it worked out well, but they gave him a shot.
You know what? It's like, again, on what wrestling fans can complain about. Like, that's just a weekly show. What wrestling fans can complain about? Oh, Dana Warrior's on here because my great idea of having the Balor Club versus the Shield 6 times in a row is better. Just cut it out.
Yeah, and listen. And guys, they have real writers on that team, and this is the product that we have. So maybe the answer is to have Dana Warrior on. Maybe that'll be the breath of fresh air that we get.
Why is that why? And this isn't against you guys, obviously, but why is this a big topic? Because wrestling Twitter or wrestling community makes it a big. It's not a big topic. There's 85 writers. There's Jimmy Johns from down the street. Who cares? I don't care who they bring in. Make the product interesting.
What's funny is that
Bruce Pritchard's interesting because he's a guy from the past during the hottest era. You bring him in. He's got good knowledge, and maybe they're going a little bit away from TV PG, as you've seen hinted at. And that's something that changes the landscape. Dana Warrior's not changing anything.
and even Bruce became a negative. Even Bruce became a negative where people love, and this is and you guys, whoever listens, I mean, if anybody in the audience listens to my podcast, I don't know why you would, but if you listen, you kind of know that I get really turned off by negativity.
Yep.
I'm a very when it comes to stuff like this, I love wrestling, right? And I talk about this to my wife. We've been together for 13 years. She hears my passion for wrestling, but the second I no longer enjoy wrestling, I'm not doing this anymore. We have advertisers. I love doing the show, but I've always told my co-host Rich, the day that I don't enjoy this, I can't do this out of a place of hatred. But for whatever reason, because people now watch wrestling as critics, as reviewers with everything that we do. And it's not just wrestling. Comic book culture has the same exact problem.
Oh, yeah.
Pop culture has the same exact thing. Listen, I'm a comic book fan too. And I read, the reviews of stuff and the things that upset people to the point of it just makes me angry. So I stop reading it.
On the bigger scale, like Star Wars. Everyone bitched about the last Star Wars movie. And it's like, first off, you wanted them to try something different. Then they tried something too different. And it's like,
just like wrestling.
Wrestling. I agree. The moment that I don't enjoy this, but what I did to enjoy it is I have someone run the Rant with Ant Twitter 80% of the time. It's not me. My Patreons get to talk to me and get to have those educated discussions because Twitter is a garbage fire. You know, it's a dumpster fire.
Say it again.
So I do the same thing. And the thing that helped me out is I deleted my personal account. I don't go on Twitter during Monday Night Raw or SmackDown. So I don't read people being negative. And I enjoy the show a hell of a lot more because I don't have to deal with the negativity because I feel like people find something to bitch about. And it's like, I've never seen so many unathletic people tell someone you can't wrestle.
I know. What? Listen, so with Bruce, for example, right? The guy has a tremendous mind for the business. He was 20-something years old working with Vince. He was his right-hand man. And all people are focused in on is that this is the guy that came up with Doink the Clown and Duke the Dumpster Josie. Listen, working... I worked for a let's see how I can say this. I worked for a very upscale gentleman's club for a while as their senior director of marketing and
senior director of viewership.
Senior director of viewership. And I would have, for every great idea, I would have 4 shitty ones that would suck, and that's just how it is when you're in a creative position. I applaud them for actually considering Bruce. I like Bruce as a person. People judge him based on a character he plays on a podcast. By the way, if you guys need Blue Chew, we can just talk about this right now. You can go to bluechew.com and you get a free order. Just pay the shipping. I think Bruce does a great job for what he does, and we'll just see what happens. You can't change creative overnight. Yeah. We had a great week last week with Raw. This week was okay. So it takes time.
Like, why can't wrestling fans put it in the perspective of life? Like, how many mistakes have you made in your life, and then you learn from them? So if WWE makes a mistake, they're usually going to learn from it. And everyone's like, well, Roman Reigns is a mistake. Burr, 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 burr. And it's like, did you watch Raw for the 4 months he wasn't there? Because I didn't, because I fell asleep at 9 o'clock every week.
But you know what, though? Roman Reigns is a great example, right? What's wrong with Roman Reigns?
Nothing.
Nothing is wrong with him. He was the guy that the fans wanted until Daddy told you this is what you're supposed to have. Yeah. Right. That's what happened with Roman. Yep. He became the guy that they started pushing, and all of a sudden, it's this counterculture mentality where you kind of want, it's the underdog mentality, essentially.
Starting with Becky already. Go on.
Oh, yeah. And it's happening with Becky. Great. Happening with Becky.
You wanted this person. Like, everyone's like, oh, well, at first it was, why did they add Charlotte to the main event? Like, first off, a year ago, everyone was saying it's Charlotte versus Ronda's the main event of WrestleMania. Yep. Becky got hot. They put Becky in. Yeah, and now people are complaining about that. It's like, come on.
Yep. I want to go back to the whole Dana Warrior thing because everyone on Twitter or wherever seems to know what it takes to hire a writer, and they know the qualifications of a writer for WWE. The only qualification that you could potentially predict future success being a WWE writer is whether or not you've been involved in a creative process before. Other than that, there is nothing like it. Like the way they do it, they have separate teams. One stays in Stanford, one goes on the road. It's absolutely nuts. There's just all you're doing is contributing ideas. She could be terrible. She could not be terrible. What she's done before isn't going to have anything to do with that. There's really no way of knowing if someone's going to succeed in that role until they do it. Everything else is just internet guesswork.
Yep. Very true.
Very well said.
Very true. Yeah, no, you're nailing all the points as far as the Dana Warrior situation goes. We really don't know what that is even going to amount to. It might not amount to anything. Who knows? I mean, she's there and she's checking stuff out, and whether she'll actually end up contributing much of anything or if it becomes a permanent position, who knows? I think the initial reaction just, I think, came from, you know, she comes with a lot of baggage as far as who her husband was. And there's definitely a lot of people out there who know the darker side, I'll just say, of her husband.
Yeah,
and
but
given
that's her husband, like, listen, I'm a jerk off. Doesn't mean my wife's an asshole. You know what I mean? Like,
very true. I can attest to that too with me and my wife.
I don't think any of us want our wives to be evaluated by who we are.
If my wife
That's
is
what the internet's
evaluated by
doing.
me, she is fucked. Like,
My wife
Very good
is
point.
amazing. I'm doing a YouTube show with you guys.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
think about that for a second.
anyone
Yeah,
who has to talk to me over 10 minutes, I feel bad for.
Yeah, I think a part of it is probably, you know, a little bit of that. And then just, I think there's just the weirdness of people being like, okay, well, if they want, when the line about that they brought her in to fulfill a female perspective is, I think, what set a number of people off, because they're going with the idea that, like, well, there's female writers out there between comic books and TV and, you know, tons of different mediums. So it's like, if that's what you're looking for, get someone who actually has some experience in either TV or something, or even an ex-female wrestler or something of some
just
sort.
because I have experience in sports doesn't mean I'm going to be good at every sport. Like, it's
Right.
it's a double-sided argument, because I see, like, okay, they've been involved in a creative process, but being involved in a wrestling show is completely different than writing about
100%.
a superhero, because you can write about a superhero and people don't get tired of a superhero winning all the time. But in wrestling, when you present someone as a superhero, they hate them. Then what?
You're
do you
shoving
do?
them down our throat.
Yeah. So there's like that, and I get what you're saying, but there's that weird medium where it's like, you can do something well, but it's not going to always translate over to wrestling.
No, you're absolutely right. Writing for wrestling is its own beast. I assist with writing for Capital Wrestling, and it is for every fan that thinks they could write wrestling. If you actually go through the process of having to write 10 weeks of TV, and you start at week 10, and then you got to figure out how you get there without screwing anything up. Best case scenario, nobody gets hurt and nobody quits the company. Normal scenario, everybody gets hurt and everybody quits the company. So now you got to kind of shuck and jive with everybody. And imagine, you know, WWE at least has the pleasure of contracts.
I was just going to say.
Writing for an independent promotion in the Northeast it changes week after week. So you build 10 weeks of TV on one guy, and all of a sudden Ring of Honor signs them. And what do? You got to now start over, and then you have people that say, "Well, look how shitty their writing is. It's not consistent." It's a very difficult task for any company to have to write weekly wrestling television. Not even considering 3 hours a week for one show, another 2 hours for another, a pay-per-view every 4 to 5 weeks. It's really a difficult task that most people can't handle, and we see that. You know, we had guys like Freddie Prinze Jr., a very talented writer in Hollywood. You know, a guy he's an actor. He understands it on both sides, and he really couldn't sustain that lifestyle.
You know, it's funny too, because everyone before, you know, talk about the female perspective. Before Dana Warrior was announced was revealed or whatever as being on the writing team, how many of those people knew they already had a lead female writer?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Most people didn't know that, and yet here we've had one, and she was an actress on a sitcom. So you just never know where it's going to come from and how it's going to work, but everybody's an expert.
No, we got to be fake mad about it. Hold on, let me tweet about it. I'm really going to stir the pot with this tweet. Like, come on. Shut up.
That is truly some people's motivation. We know that. I will say, ever since Bruce been back, the tone just felt so different and refreshing, and it's absolutely been a positive thing. I can't even fathom to think how people can look at that as any bit of negativity at all. Like, it's just Raw just felt, or just anything Raw SmackDown just felt a lot different over the last couple of weeks since he's been back. Also, too, Andrew, I'll just let you know, too, because I know you say you hate negativity. I seen Captain Marvel last night.
Oh, not good, huh?
I don't do it.
Negativity. Let me kind of set that.
I'm just messing with you. You hate unconstructive.
I hate any kind of negativity. I just want positivity in my life. No, I don't like
yeah.
I don't like I don't like internet negativity.
Yeah.
You know?
I hate
talking
the
out their
gang
ass half
mentality.
the time,
Yeah.
you know?
The
meh.
Yeah.
Everything is
keyboard warriors.
You want the constructive criticism that we don't get online because you get 280 characters and you're going to use it. But people sit down to watch Raw and they're literally like, okay, what am I going to hate?
Yeah.
You're obviously going to find something. If you sit down to watch Raw and say, what am I going to like? Guess what? You're going to fucking like something. And so it's all in your mind frame. It's all in your mindset. We can't change them.
I love the gang mentality. I've seen so many people that are like, I like Roman Reigns, and like 6 months later, because like they can't take people, you know, coming. I've been a Roman fan since day one, and I don't care what people think. Like I've been called, you know, worse things by better people, but like I've seen friends that say, "Oh, I like Roman Reigns. Roman's my favorite." Blah blah blah, and then the internet turns them because it's that gang mentality where it's not cool to like Roman Reigns and
peer pressure.
Yeah, and I just don't get like that. Like. I don't get why people can't have educated conversations about more than wrestling, just about life in general. And like Andrew said, like, why can't people just be positive? If you don't like something that much, why do you watch it? I don't sit here and go, I hate the Kardashians, and I go in there and watch whatever.
You know what though? I hate watch the Kardashians. I hate watch them regularly.
They are hot, so of course, like I'm going to look at the TV and be like, but I'm not interested in it. But like, I'm not going to sit there and bash people who watch it. Or I'm not going to sit there and live tweet the Kardashians. Can you imagine if people live tweeted the Kardashians all negative stuff? Kim's nose is fucked up in this frame. Look at this. Look at this outfit. It's god awful. Who cares?
No, but you know what? Though? We're kind of discussing something that goes beyond wrestling, and I think it's a cultural shift. It's a major cultural shift where anonymity has somewhat allowed, you know, I do my, you know, I love the wrestling stuff and it's become a living for me, but my bread and butter is my tech podcast. And we discuss this all the time where anonymity has allowed people to become the worst versions of themselves. But I'm not someone that's against anonymity. It's not there to protect me. It's almost like freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is not to protect my speech. It's to protect yours. And the same goes for anonymity. Unfortunately, with you know, there are days that I want there to be some sort of registration where we all get on a list and I want to know everybody's name that's messaging me. Yeah. But in reality, you know, the bigger picture, I want to know who, you know, Bonnet 69 is.
Oh, special dude 26 in your DMs again.
Yeah, that's just telling me that my eyebrows look ridiculous. Yeah. You know, I want to fucking find this guy.
And of course, they're telling you that while they have an avatar of like an anime character or something.
It's anime avatar.
It's an anime avatar, and it, you know, with tentacles coming out of its asshole. You know what I mean? Like that's the world that we live in. This guy's
that's actually them, though. That's the problem. That's actually who they are.
Yeah, that's the problem. But in reality, like those guys are always going to exist.
Yep.
You know, the internet and anonymity is there to protect, you know, political asylum seekers and people doing, you know, the good stuff. But the reality is majority of the internet is filled with shitheads. Yeah. And that represents society at this point. We are in a very polarizing world where there can't be a gray. Everything is black or white. Everything is against you, you know, politically, not politically, fan driven.
I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I hope that it all goes on fire one day. This is all gone. It's just, I wanted someone lights a match and then, you know, cool guy 69 is nowhere to be.
So I would love to do, like, I was a history major, so I'm a fucking giant nerd. I would love to do like a thesis on wrestling fans' psychology, because I feel like wrestling fans as a whole are an introverted bunch. The communication skills, everything. I feel like I know personally, like I wasn't the biggest, like, I didn't like to come out and talk about wrestling because people would just literally bash you for watching wrestling. No doubt. So you keep to yourself and you have this awkward perspective on stuff. And I feel like that's like the wrestling community is like, this is where they can come out of their shell and kind of like be themselves, but they try to portray something that they're not. Like, me on my show, me on my Twitter, it's me. When you meet Anthony, it is the same person who's on the show. But I feel like this is where they can mask and like let out their frustrations of not being allowed to be a wrestling fan. Well, now they're a diehard wrestling fan. You're going to hear every single thought that they have in their mind until you don't want to hear it anymore, and you block it. But I feel like we get the weirdest DMs, like the weirdest DMs. Like, you know, like the other week I had like 6 DMs. You know, Roman's leukemia was fake, and it's like, okay,
And dude, you know what's crazy about that whole leukemia conspiracy?
Yeah.
People are very vocal about it. You know, like, by the way, I grew up in New York, right? I'm not like 9/11 is one of those things that I hear about all the time. Right?
That was my senior thesis, actually, that I was just talking about.
Okay. Yeah. So I hear that, but people whisper it, right? People are like, well, you know, okay, fine. You know what? That's your prerogative. That's your perspective.
Don't bend like that.
Steel beams don't bend. I get it. I know the whole thing. Whatever. Yep. That's your belief. You think whatever you think, and it doesn't affect me. But this whole Roman Reigns leukemia thing, people, I watched the podcast. I don't want to say the guy's name. This guy was
put him on blast.
You know why I can't say it? I don't want to say because I would get it wrong, and God forbid there's another podcaster.
Is it Wasim Purvis? No.
Sexy man 55.
No, can Wasim make a podcast? Like, that would be great.
It's Cool Guy 69, okay? It's Cool Guy 69.
Special B26.
But this guy is coming. He's doing this whole thing about how Roman's leukemia was fake, and he's talking about, you know, but he's so aggressive about it. He's not presenting any kind of proof or the typical or the other thing that I've heard is like, my father had leukemia and he died and he didn't survive. You know, there are different types of leukemia. There's different levels. My grandfather had leukemia. He lived with it for 25 years. Yep. So it's not a kiss of death, especially in 2019. It's not the kiss of death.
And a healthy guy like Roman too, and
a healthy guy like Roman, and
the type that he access to the best doctors and everything, and
and the type that he has, it could come back, and the odds are if it came back a second time, it's possible it'll come a third time. Unfortunately, you know, the hope is that it doesn't. But this guy is so angry and so mad that, you know, Roman Reigns is back and his leukemia is fake and WWE did this. And for a second, let's think about it. This is a publicly traded company.
Yep.
The outcry and the negativity that'll exist, considering this is a company that works with Susan G. Komen.
Yep.
You know, a group.
They have Connor's Cure. They have all the
Connor's Cure
foundations. Like,
it just shows you the disconnect, like you were saying, Ant. That certain people within the wrestling community have, where everything is a work. And I think the problem is they watch too many honky shoot videos.
Yeah.
You know, I think too much RF videos have corrupted people's minds. Where they think that this is even a concept that the WWE would put together.
To get people to like Roman.
Come on,
Reigns.
You know, there's certain levels.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing. This is a way to get people to like Roman Reigns. Is the comment I got. I was like, "Hey, asshole! Did you see the merchandise numbers last year? Because he was like number 2. Like, people like him.
People hating Roman Reigns was great business. Yeah. There's no reason to force people to like Roman Reigns.
People hate Roman Reigns. Look how much money he generates.
Yeah, the one I kept getting was, you know, Vince tried to fake his death once, so why wouldn't he try and do this?
Yeah, it's on like TV.
It's like, dude, that isn't how it works. Like you said, they're actively involved with cancer charities. This would, like, if they dared to go there, this would be like the silver bullet that would finally.
If they
excessively damage them.
If they did that, honestly, with like my life and my brother's battle with cancer and stuff like that, I would not watch this company anymore. And that's just me, you know, my view on it. If they would fake this as a storyline, but they wouldn't do it. Like, I just don't. It's not even like he didn't even say, "Hey, Roman Reigns has cancer." He said Joe has leukemia. Like, it wasn't. It wasn't built into the show like a neck injury. You don't build cancer into wrestling storylines.
So another thing that I kind of wanted to touch on, there was a lot of information going out, a lot of stories going over what Dave Meltzer said about Roman Reigns' leukemia. So Dave, for example, and this is another great example of how the internet community just kind of spun up. Dave never questioned his leukemia or even said like it's not possible. He specifically said on a show that there's different types of leukemia.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes it's worse. It's always bad, but sometimes it's worse than others. And the type that he has is, in the grand scheme of things, and this is, you know, not to be taken out of context, he has the lesser of the bad leukemias.
But he said that on the Roman said that on the documentary. Luckily, I have this leukemia, which is easier to beat. Like he said it straight up on that documentary.
Yeah, he doesn't have to take chemo. He just has to take medication.
He has to take
that's
a chemo pill.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just again, it just the full circle of things. It's just people have to stop overreacting to things, and you have to it's just if we can create this positive community. I know all of our listeners that's the one thing that we pride ourselves on is being a positive community. Yes, we have our debates. Yes, we don't like certain things, but it's the way that you present yourself when you don't like a certain thing. Like, I'm not going to sit there and get on a soapbox about, I don't like how they're presenting the tag team division because I don't. But guess what? I just won't talk about the tag team division because I'm not going to sit there and be like, I hate it so much, blah, 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 and turn red in my face and look like an asshole when I could talk about the women's division. I could talk about Reigns being back. I could talk about Seth Sheer. You have so much good to focus on, but people like to pick out those little sections of the bad and really just drive the nail home, you know?
This is like the perfect segue too for the next topic for real, because it's been something I've been kind of passionate about, trying to exploit the positivity in it. So the NXT call-ups, basically, and not just call-ups, but a lot of shifting around where people are going 205 Live. Obviously, we're seeing people on Raw, SmackDown, NXT UK. Really good. And actually, you're seeing people work more on the indies as well, too. So everyone's getting work. Everyone's getting publicity to some extent. But some people are calling the call-ups pointless. They just brought them up and they're not giving them nothing to do. Just giving them matches for no reason. And instead, which I would describe this as a great tactic, is exposure, but other people feels like it's trash because they didn't do it like they usually do, where they say EC3 and Heavy Machinery, blah blah blah, coming soon, to try to exploit that they're going to be put into a storyline. So you see a little bit of difference from how they usually do it, but how what they've done with Ricochet and Aleister Black. Now they're like, these guys are here and they're in matches or whatever.
Well, they did make a mistake. I have a very close friend that's a writer there, and they admittedly have internally said, okay, we screwed it up with these guys. Let's not do that again. I think the concept here was that, like you said, it would be an old school debut, coming soon. But unfortunately, the way that wrestling fans look at debuts, they want the Sabu debut. They want the lights to turn off and the lights to turn on, and here's the guy in the middle of the ring, and he gets a title shot the first night, which that's not how you write TV.
So what do you mean technically they screwed up?
They
realized their mistake.
Yeah, they had a very different vision for how this was going to go down. Yeah, and it was vocalized from other people saying, "Listen, it's not going to work that way. You can't take people and blend them in and then slowly bring them up like that. If you have a guy like EC3, you kind of have to separate him from everybody else and say, listen, this is a TNA champion. This is a known wrestler." And they kind of blended him, and that was kind of the idea, that he would be in the background of stuff, and then have him feud. They dropped the ball with that, and I don't know. They're gonna have to hit the reset on it.
But that's my point here, is that you seen the first group of people that they said was going they were going to call up, and it's not working. And now you're seeing Ricochet, who they didn't know, the main roster crowd did not know who he was. Now it's the Black, to now people are cheering for them, respecting their craft.
Because these guys are brought to a big stage, and I agree with Andrew. But that's something that they have messed up time and time again. Look at the people who have fallen by the wayside, and then look at the people who have remained up top. The people like Kevin Owens and Finn and
the one
Seth,
that they just said, boom.
They went bam, they're here. Kevin Owens beat Cena on his first night. Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns are in a faction. Paige wins the title. They got that treatment. They felt like a huge star. Someone who I feel is kind of like in that floundering, kind of in that mid where it could go either way, is Samoa Joe. And I love Samoa Joe. But you haven't given the casuals anything to connect with that guy until last night. We're like, okay, now he's the United States champion. But they've done it with Adam Rose, No Way Jose, people like this, where they just bring them up and they don't do anything, and then they're gone 6 months later, like just off the face of the earth.
Well, Bruce Pritchard has said it before on his show, and now he's there, of course.
Yeah,
you want somebody to look like a main eventer, you bring him in as a main eventer. And outside of like one or two people, almost everybody who's come up from NXT is still at the level that they were at when they were introduced by the company. Kevin Owens came in, he beat John Cena. Now he's a big star. You know, maybe Alexa Bliss is one that wasn't like that.
Sami Zayn is like what? Sami Zayn, I used to say Sami Zayn's going to be your next Daniel Bryan. He's a genuine guy. People can relate to him, and they brought him up and nothing. Like, he's had some great matches, but what has he done to be that main event talent he was in NXT? It's because they brought him in.
They brought him in as a mid-card package.
Yeah, Nakamura is a perfect example. That guy should have came up and I know it's cliche, but beat John Cena. And then you're like, wow, that guy's for real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And instead, they brought him in and immediately just threw him out there with Ziggler, and it's like, oh, okay, so he's mid-carder.
And then he started nut-shine AJ Styles at his chance to shine, and it's like you took his shine away from him. So now he's just Shinsuke Nakamura in the tag team with Rusev.
You have to also look at, and what I'm kind of saying is what has been told to me by one of my friends there. A lot. You know, you got a writing team, right? And you got agents, and you got producers, and you have a whole slew of people. So let's use Nakamura as a great example. How many of them have actually watched his career in Japan?
Out of the 20%, I would say.
I was going to say 10%. 5%.
Okay, maybe
very small number.
Very small number, right? So let's say out of 10 people, 3 of them have watched. So 30% are familiar with him. Out of that 30%, how many of them are influencers within the company? So now you have a whole new group of people that all they have seen is a 5-minute promo package that was put together for them like it is for Vince. And now they're looking at this guy and saying, okay, I got to figure out what this guy's entire 3-year career, the last previous 3 years, is and how we're going to incorporate him in. He came in. He had that phenomenal match with Sami Zayn, right? God, it was great. He was in NXT, and in an NXT, you're a little bit protected. You have more control over what you're doing. You go to the main roster, and all they see is a big pop every time he comes out. They know nothing about his feuds. They know nothing about his personality. They now want him to talk. You have a whole group of people that are not familiar with your work writing for the character. You know, going back to comic books, mid-90s, Uncanny X-Men was on fire, right? Imagine if you changed writers midway through the storyline of I guess like going late 90s, Omega Prime and Alpha, right? Which was a big fallout of Uncanny essentially. And now you change the writer, and the guy is only familiar with stuff that happened 3 years ago, and it's for a very short period.
It happens in television. People leave, writers leave, and then it's like, or movies. And like a perfect example, one of my favorite shows, Entourage. After season 4, midway, the writers left, and then they had to get new writers. And it felt like a different show because different people were writing these characters the way they saw them.
Yeah, listen, the biggest example is Justice League, the movie. You seen between two people try to direct the movie and their vision and their writing, and it looks like 2 different movies when you watch it. Like absolutely a tragedy, These are
the struggles that they face on the as a writer for WWE. So the big committees I'm not a fan of. At the end of the day, it's Vince that makes the decision. He's in charge. And how familiar is Vince McMahon with AJ Styles? I mean, AJ was a fluke in all. God,
AJ as a mid-carder.
God forbid if he did not get that pop at that Rumble, right? Imagine if he comes out, if they didn't have the right theme for him, it didn't say phenomenal, and here comes AJ Styles with the Rachel haircut from Friends, coming out
with Phoebe.
With Phoebe coming out in front of to face Roman Reigns, and that crowd doesn't react. It would have been it for him. It would have been it. Sure. It was a fluke, and thank God it was a fluke. Thank God that was the reaction. It was in the city. He had the right theme. He had the right entrance, and he got the reaction he was supposed to get.
And I think another thing that is Roman selling that, like, who is this? And then when AJ Styles comes out, Roman's like, oh shit, like. He made it look like AJ was a big deal. And then, of course, people don't like Roman, so now everyone's cheering AJ to get him out. So it was literally they set it up perfect. It was a fluke, but I think a lot of thought went into that to get this guy over as well. But AJ Styles, I mean, like you said, it is a fluke because how many times have we seen someone get this big push and then he just falls flat? I mean, right now, I like Braun Strowman, but I felt like this guy was going to be the Universal Champion like 8 months ago, and it still hasn't happened. So it's starting to go down. Another one, my favorite one I've seen is Enzo and Cass. They never pulled the trigger on them. And why I don't like them together, like I don't like them at all. But when they left NXT, they were the hottest act in NXT. The crowd was going nuts for them. They came, they got a great pop, they got position, they got title matches, and then they lost. And then
the Hardy Boys have a lot to do with that.
Yeah, but it just fell out.
Yeah.
The Hardy Boys came, 6 months after their run in WWE? Like, I was already getting tired of them at that point.
Yeah, true that. As a part two to this question, so Tommaso Ciampa, obviously the news came out today about him having to get neck surgery and potentially being out for about 6 to 14 months, which I think we all can agree that he's going to have to vacate the NXT Championship. Yes. So considering what we just talked about, how people are just being called up, maybe that was just an isolated thing. I don't know if more continues. Obviously, the Raw after Mania, we expect stuff like that. But NXT has a lot they got to shift around now. Where do you think they go forward at this point now? Losing one of their, brightest talents, their champion, and to an injury, and maybe possibly would have just been to the main roster. Who knows how that was going to be handled?
The good thing is, if they were preparing to actually call him up, that they probably have a plan in place of who's getting the title and who's going to be challenging for titles. Velveteen Dream's your North American champion. You have Matt Riddle. I'm a little biased because I love Matt Riddle, but I mean, you have the roster where you can push these guys up and people can fill in. And that's where stars are made. That's where you make or break it, is when stuff like this happens. And it sucks because Tommaso Ciampa has been the most consistent character on all of WWE programming, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So losing him is huge, but it forces people to step up. It forces you to make stars. And there's a guy named Adam Cole who's a pretty big star that has never had a title reign that you could really kind of lean on as your crutch.
They got a bunch of darn options. One thing I'll say, when this happened this morning, when the word came out about Tommaso Ciampa, of course, it's like, oh my God, this is like weeks before TakeOver. They have TV in the can. It looks like they're building to a Ciampa versus Gargano blow-off match for the NXT title. And now that's all out the window. The upside, as the day went on, and I kept thinking about it, I think, is that it happening right before Mania is that they were going to have to reshuffle the deck no matter what, with so many people coming and going. So like you just mentioned, they had to have a plan in place. Was Tommaso going to lose the belt or not? That was going to have to be addressed either darn way. What I like about this, the more I thought about it, I think this is a great opportunity to really reshuffle the deck in NXT, because that place is so stocked right now with talent that is just sitting on the shelf and is just barely, gotten used yet. Like Keith Lee, like Donovan Dijakovic. Let me get the name right. They're using for it.
Make his name harder to say.
Exactly. It's like, why can't it just be Dijak? Make it easy.
Oh, coming soon for sure.
No, they're going to keep his last name.
Yeah, for sure.
For some reason, Andrade Cien Almas is Andrade when everyone called him Cien. You like Cien, we're going to call him Andrade.
And as you mentioned, Matt Riddle, and Adam Cole, Velveteen Dream, they have options. They absolutely have options.
Robbie Strong is amazing, and I know he's an undisputed era, but you have all these great, like O'Reilly and Fish are good. Like, you have a lot of options.
And that new class that's coming in as well, too.
Who knows? Pete Dunne loses the UK championship. Pete Dunne can be your guy in NXT.
Yeah, absolutely. They have a lot of different cards that they could play here. And I think one thing that they kind of got hurt with in the past few months, they stuck with that Gargano and Ciampa feud for so long that it's really stagnated, I think, the top of the NXT card. So personally, if it was me, I would love to see the plan be for WrestleMania weekend that they use this as the opportunity to really refresh NXT. And you just mentioned him personally. I would say, you got Dream in the mix, you got Gargano in the mix, you got Adam Cole in the mix. I would go with like a total curve, and I'd throw Matt Riddle in there, and I'd strap a rocket on him right here and make him the champ.
I would love that.
Make a brand new guy that will immediately be elevated into that top level, and just do it. Just do it and shake everything up. Everything up.
When is their TV taping?
The 13th.
Next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Next Wednesday. Okay. So I guess we're going to find out. They got a week to figure it out, right?
Yeah, they got a week to figure it out.
I'm very biased on Matt Riddle because he's a friend of mine. So, like, if they want to give the title to Matt Riddle, I might run in the ring. I might do. I don't care. Ban me from NXT. I
like the idea of like making a brand new guy. I
can see now with Velveteen, I could see Riddle maybe beating Velveteen and then Velveteen actually winning that champ. You need that star power because, I mean, the rumor is FS1 for NXT. How long has that been a rumor? You need a guy that people want to see. And who knows, maybe this is a time where you start crossing people back to NXT because they want to make that a legit third brand. So is that against the realm of possibility?
Not at all.
Some of these guys that they're not doing anything with can go back to NXT?
Not at all. I think the statement was made when you seen Sasha and Bailey said we're going to defend it down here. And again, you know, a lot of mixings going on. Mia Yim was in NXT UK. Oni Larkin was just in 205 Live. So you know,
Tyler Breeze was down there too.
I mean, I legit think that, you know, as you want to, and Matt Riddle is a perfect person to put the belt on, considering the FS1 deal. His name, his face, his brand, his history with UFC, a face that a lot of people that may not be a wrestling fan, but a hardcore UFC fan, you're bringing a whole nother group of people and say, "Oh, I know that guy. I remember him. He busted Dana White balls for about 3 years. Oh, he's the champion here. Might as well watch it." You know what I mean? It could be interesting, but I don't think we're out of the realm of possibility for any of this stuff. And I hope, and I say it all the time on the podcast, I legit hope when Triple H and the McMahons and them came out and said that we're going to get the matches we want and they're going to be shaking things around, I hope this is what they meant. And then with the call-ups of like Ricochet and them, I hope that was part of the seeding of like, you just never know who may work where and who may do what. And if that's what the path they're going on, with the abundance of people coming into NXT, it just makes it a safe place for anybody and anybody to go anywhere. So, and they're just going to keep recruiting. I mean, again, I can't emphasize enough that underclass with ACH and them, that's a strong class that's coming in. And I tell Will all the time, AEW, they said all the people they signed. And then there's a big cloud of people that has not been signed or proclaimed signed anywhere that I'm for sure going to WWE, even though they haven't announced it yet. So there's another strong class of free agents that's been out there that's coming in.
And they have a UK brand that they can pull from.
Exactly.
Dude, Walter, man. Walter.
Yes.
Beast.
Dude,
there's no shortage.
You brought up something interesting. AEW now has a we're getting closer to obviously finding out their official TV schedule and finding out, their entire roster, what they're planning on doing. Over the last month, we have not really heard any big names. And that kind of shows you how everybody's committed to all the different brands at this point. Japan is making a big effort at locking guys in.
Ibushi signed, and he never signed. And
he never signed. So they had to have given him great money. Yep. You have Ring of Honor making plays, obviously, for a lot of people. You have WWE, you have NXT, and then you have MLW, which is open-ended contracts. But still, you have an abundant amount of places for people to go in an era where, I mean, this really is the pro wrestling renaissance. If you think about it, I can't think of a period in pro wrestling that has had this level of talent as a whole, and this level of hardcore interest. When you talk about pro wrestling, I brought this up on my show. One of my friends, he's an executive at one of a major TV network with 3 letters, essentially, right? you could kind of, there's only a couple of them, right? Only a couple of these.
Not a handful of them.
Yeah. So his job is to essentially figure out what kind of demo exists for a certain product. And the number that they cohesively amongst, him and other networks, they figured out is there is a consistent 500,000 people that will watch wrestling every single week, not turn it off. They're committed to buying into the brand. They're committed into buying products. It's only 500,000. And that's a very high number for a P1 audience, a hardcore audience for pro wrestling to have. The bet is not on those guys. It's the secondary and third level entry points to pro wrestling. Unfortunately, Kenny Omega is not going to do it, right? For a lot of those people. Where, as far as the open market goes, what are some big names that could become top stars in any of these companies that's not signed? It's not too many people.
No. It's retreads. It's guys from like ECW. It's like Rob Van Dam or, Tommy Dreamer. People who are past their prime, but they pop you. You're like, oh, I know who that is. But there's really no one out there because they'd have to come from WWE. And I just don't see that happening, at least not right away.
There's one guy. There's one guy. One guy.
Well, I will say this. If we're talking about combat sports, like there's only legit 5 big names that exist out there that's like active. And DC being in UFC, who's inbound to WWE.
Right.
And as soon
as Bones beats him again, he's gone.
Yeah, Jones.
UFC, you bring it up. Great example. They made the biggest mistake where they went with the WWE spoke on the wheel mentality, where they did not invest time into personalities, into characters. They invested time into their brand, and look what happened. Ronda left. Ronda left. Lesnar left.
Yep.
And DC is at the end.
GSP just retired.
GSP retired. Yeah. John Jones is,
treading water.
Who knows how many picograms he has in his body at any given point. I can't believe we're discussing picograms. First of all, you know how small a picogram is? How tiny
I just don't get it.
Tested from somehow 6 he months has ago. Them every time.
Somehow he has 20 to 40 picograms every day of his life in his system. No, but the reality is, how many pro wrestlers exist out there that are open top guys? I'm not talking, mid-range guys or beyond their time guys. I'm saying a top guy currently that could potentially sign with a company and make a swing with those 500,000 viewers.
CM Punk, that's about it.
That's it. Yeah. That's the only name.
Yeah.
That's the only name. I mean, I'm not saying he's coming back or he would even be that big of a draw coming back a couple years later.
I think he would.
He would be a draw.
I think he would. I think he
would get people's attention.
Sure,
there's no doubt.
But for P2 level audiences and P3 level, he's a name that people recognize over the last decade. The reality is it doesn't exist. That's available, and WWE has grabbed all these guys. Matt Riddle's a great name to build a company around.
Yep, it absolutely is.
But he's locked in.
Yeah,
not to mention too. I mean, they keep their negotiations and interests open. I mean, it's a reach right now, but who's to say that somebody like Conor McGregor don't get bored with getting beat in the face for a while, and Floyd Mayweather doesn't want to fight him, and he's like, wait, Brock Lesnar made how much last year and appeared how many times?
So much income from everything else that he does.
Yeah.
He's almost Ronda Rousey did it because Ronda Rousey loved wrestling. And that's why I always respect Ronda Rousey. This isn't a money grab for her.
I agree.
I love professional wrestling. I want to go do it. I don't see that with like a guy like Conor McGregor.
Maybe
I do. I see it with DC because DC
for sure.
Wrestling.
Yeah. Right. And he has a background in wrestling. It makes sense. I mean, Conor he's a cash guy. He wants to make money, and who knows what Ronda head was upon signing, but yet she does love combat sports. And I think the package they present to her, and I think when you mirror that, and you want to pursue somebody bigger. I mean, let's not forget Cain Velasquez, another big UFC guy, was hiding in the NXT crowd. And they say, "Oh, that guy right there is he beat Brock, by the way." Is in our crowd right now. We're just going to let you guys know who he is. I mean, like they're constantly expanding, but these big names right here are names that could tip viewerships for sure, but they're only being talked about with WWE. So that's just it.
Well, that's because WWE is the grandest stage of them all. It really is, and I know
not forget ever.
I love AEW, and I love what they're doing, and I love the progressive mentality that they have. But at the end of the day, you can start all these football leagues. Nothing's going to be bigger than the NFL. You can start any wrestling company you want. nothing will be bigger than the WWE. It's taken 30 plus years to establish. This just didn't happen overnight.
Yep.
So, I mean, of course, DC would go to WWE because growing up, what did we watch? I mean, yes, WCW was there. We grew up in a lucky era, but you remember the Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant. You remember Ultimate Warrior, Rick Rude steel cage matches. You remember that golden era. And as much as the wrestling wasn't good, the characters were, and they were larger than life. That's where you go to be a larger than life character and expand your brand.
And there's only so much great wrestling is going to attract at the end of the day. You need a captivating storyline. You need something that's going to bring people back. I think they did a great job 2 weeks ago with Batista and Triple H.
Nailed it.
When is the last time? And you guys, and this is kind of, I'm actually asking because I'm going to use this on my show. When is the last time Raw ended with a holy shit cliffhanger?
Yep. Yeah. So I would say, well, I mean, oh my God, what happens next?
Oh my God, what happens next?
It has to be Rollins turning on the Shield.
That's a great example.
When you did that, everyone was shocked. And I know the Dean Ambrose thing kind of left me in shock too, but the shock didn't hit because it was more of the, oh my God, is Roman Reigns going to be okay? Yeah. But they haven't had that, you lay in bed and you're thinking about it. I lay there and I'm like, holy shit, we're going to get Batista Triple H. And then I started thinking all the times they hinted at it over the years and how it's finally coming together. I thought that was perfectly done. I love that ending.
Without a doubt. And we're going to move into our very last topic, and then we're going to close the show for tonight. This is really short. We've just been talking about it a little bit from the last topic anyway. But I think it's safe to say that the women has legit been carrying this WrestleMania season this year, right? I think we all can agree there. But I just want to just down the board real quick. We can pretty much how you guys can tell me how you feel, but is it a sure lock that the women's match is going to close out WrestleMania this year?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
If there was a moment, this would be it, right? When else are they going to get?
You have Ronda Rousey for one more year, so
yeah. Well, you got not only do you have Ronda Rousey, you have Ronda Rousey in a really hot angle with Becky Lynch. That's and
the greatest women's wrestler of all time, Charlotte Flair, in her prime. When did you do it?
Yeah, when they told us, no one else has called this match a main event except for. Charlotte, Becky, and Ronda. At this point, they've basically told us it's the main event. They're promoting it as the main event. They're publicizing it as such. I would, I'm like 2 steps short of betting a paycheck on
it. just making sure.
I think we just got to get past this weekend so they can officially get Becky back in the match, and then starting Monday they'll start the hard push. But absolutely, it's the main event. Nothing else comes close.
As much as I would love to see the world burn when Roman Reigns main events 5 in a row. I mean, I think this is the year. As a Roman fan, there's nothing that makes me happier than watching Twitter burn to the ground when you hear that music hit to close out Mania every year.
Oh well, what's your other option, right? Your other option
he's your biggest star. But right now, they have placed Ronda Rousey as their biggest star this year. This whole year has been Ronda Rousey. Becky Lynch is your hottest star. Charlotte is your greatest women's wrestler. At least that's what you tell us. I agree with it. Why don't you do it this year? You do it. You have to.
They are. Yeah,
I don't think that, being a New Yorker, by the way, we're very critical as a pro wrestling audience. I don't think that MetLife audience would ever consider booing that main event. I think they will eat that main event up. I think they're going to be really into it. What's more of a main event for them, Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins?
Brock hasn't been on TV forever, so
and you've seen him in the main event a number of times. You kind of know
Kofi's not going to main event.
No, if Seth hadn't won the Rumble, the Shield would be in a match at WrestleMania as the Shield. Like they're probably sitting back there going, "Man, I wish Seth didn't win the Rumble because then they could do the Shield at WrestleMania."
Well, I think a Shield WrestleMania match would have been great. I know the story is that it was supposed to be Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, but I think a 3-way amongst the Shield would have been a great main event to have for that crowd.
Yeah, that Universal Championship. Roman versus Seth versus Dean. You're getting on the grand stage with Dean leaving. I mean, they probably kicked themselves. Or you could even did the Shield versus the passing the torch to the new faction, the Undisputed Era. That one main event, but it makes for a good match. You know what I mean? So you have all this stuff on the table, but what you've told me all year long is Ronda Rousey is your main attraction. She's closed out more Raws than anyone. That has always been your last image of Raw, pretty much. This week, she did a great job finally turning, fully turning and basically saying, I don't care what you think. I'm going to beat the shit out of Becky Lynch. And I think it's been the last thing on Raw, and they're not wrestling at Fastlane. This is WrestleMania. It's the main event.
Yeah.
It's WrestleMania, and it's 3 clearly defined characters. Everyone knows where everyone stands. You got Ronda in there as the unbeatable champion who now has the chip on her shoulder that they're trying to tease you with the idea of, like, maybe Ronda's going to go into business for herself. Maybe Ronda's going to shoot on these girls. But hey, if you can get people to buy into that, great. Then you got Charlotte in there as the best wrestler, the queen that you've been promoting forever. That's head and shoulders of the WWE girls. And then you got Becky that everyone's been rallying behind, the underdog in the match that's going to have to fight and scrap and claw against the other two to finally get the title that everyone's been wanting her to get. So it writes itself. It's perfect. If you have to main event with that, there's no other match on the show so far that has those clearly defined characters like that.
You have not built Seth versus Brock at all. Brock attacked Seth once after Royal Rumble, and then it's been like, now the Shield's back together. And it's like, oh, let's forget Seth. Let's forget Seth's in the main event for a second.
Listen, and let's remember, WrestleMania is 17 hours this year.
Oh my God, yeah.
Are you guys going? Is everybody here going this year?
Well, that's great. Great segue. That's really going to be my question. What's everybody WrestleMania plans?
All right. I mean, I'll be there Thursday. We have the Rant with Ant Mania kickoff gala for special people only VIP guests. We'll be sending out invites. Mostly our Patreons. We're going to do our Mania pre-show there, do it live. We're going to serve wine, beer, wear some nice suits, fun suits.
Where is this? Where are you doing this?
I'll DM you. I can't announce it on air because I don't want people to come. Because if you're not a Patreon, you're not coming.
You don't want Sexy Man 55 in there?
No, I don't want Special Dude 26 trying to break into the party.
69.
Fucking breathing real heavy. I don't want. He can stand outside. But Thursday night I'm doing that. Friday night, of course, we're doing the NXT. We're probably going to go to a bar named McMahon's beforehand in Brooklyn, drink there. Hopefully Allison, the bartender's there. She knows me by name. That's a bad thing because summer's
Look it up.
Then Saturday, I'm not doing shit. I might go to WrestleCon. I'm not going to Hall of Fame. All the guys I liked in Ring of Honor left except Marty, so I'm not going to that. And Sunday, I'll be at WrestleMania from 11 a.m. Eastern time. No, one of my shows on the Wrestle Addict Radio, Fourth Wall WrestleCast, is throwing a tailgate, probably from like 11 to 4 p.m. because I think Mania starts at 5. And then, it's WrestleMania from 5 to 12.
Right on. What else, guys? What you guys up to? What you gonna be doing?
I'm sitting at an out-of-town soccer tournament that weekend for one of my kids. So I will be watching WrestleMania from a hotel room. Probably book an extra day so that I don't have to take the Monday off of work. But I've got family stuff going on, so I'm already kind of gearing towards Tampa to do that. I went to Royal Rumble this year. One of our people on the Chairshot Radio Network lives in Houston. He's trying to get everybody to show up for Royal Rumble next year. I mean, there's even a sentiment out there.
With that.
There was a short sentiment out there after last year's WrestleMania where people weren't going to go this upcoming year. Now, I think that changed for a lot of people, but it's such a big ticket. And think about how many of you guys are in the area and close to it, so it's a little bit easier. Do I want to fly from Phoenix and then spend all that money to go to all of those shows? I don't even know if I do.
No, you're better off not going.
I'm from the area, too, and I know we all are, too. I would not recommend anyone do that. My personal opinion is WrestleMania should be in New Orleans every single year.
Right,
last year
say it again.
Of my life.
Man.
That's literally, by the way, a lot of my friends that are not really big wrestling fans, but they go every now and then to a WrestleMania. Every time it's in New Orleans, the last 2 times, right? They have had the best time.
Of course.
And I had a group of like 20 friends go this year. Last year, the previous, whatever year it was, right? Was it last year? Yeah, it was last year. Yeah. They were blown away on what a great time they had. And he goes, literally, New Orleans is so tiny, right? As a city where anywhere you go, you saw wrestlers everywhere. any of the bars, any of the restaurants. It was just such a great time.
Yeah.
With that said, New York City is a very different venue. For people who don't realize, WrestleMania is not in New York.
Yep.
Right.
It's in New Jersey.
Yes,
And it's not that close. Like, I live in Queens. I live in the northeast. I'm more towards Long Island than Manhattan. For me to go to Meadowlands is a motherfucker. It's not a fun trip for me to make. Listen, I'm a Giants fan. It's never a fun trip for me.
God,
once every couple years.
I can't invite you to the gala now. I'm sorry.
Listen, but you know what though? I'm not that committed to football.
Yeah, okay.
I'm a Mets fan. I'm a real diehard Mets fan. I don't know if that. I know that Phillies fan. I get it. Whatever.
No, I don't have a problem with the Mets because they're not really relevant.
Well, we're losers. We're professional losers. Growing up a Mets fan, I'm 7 minutes away from the park. I could hear the park at times. Yeah. So for me, going to WrestleMania is not that big of a deal. I also have a couple advertisers, so I'd rather make money that weekend.
Yeah.
But NXT, I'm going to be at NXT 100%. And then a bunch of independent shows throughout the week.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be there for some independent shows. I like Mania because
saw each other at an independent show. What was that in
that
Orlando?
Orlando, my bad. Yeah.
That was awesome. That was a good show. That was the Orlando one was what? Was that Riddle versus
No. Not Orlando, New Orleans.
New Orleans. I saw you in New Orleans. I saw you last year.
Yeah.
Riddle versus Deonna Purrazzo, 2 Monster Factory stars.
What a show that was. A lot of energy in the wrestling.
That was great.
Yeah. But man, I think that's it. I just gotta give you guys some time to plug all your stuff, and we'll wrap this up for tonight. This has been amazing.
Yeah, I'll do this more often. This was fun.
For sure. Yeah. I'm gonna start with Greg, man. Go ahead and plug all your social media and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on the Twitter at ChairshotGreg, thechairshot.com. You can go to ProWrestlingTees.com, pick up one of our T-shirts. I got the new ones coming soon, so I'm really excited about that. Other than that, just go to the Chairshot. We don't do news anymore. We're really about opinion and analysis, great podcasts, and lots of good discussions. So come check it out at thechairshot.com. And thank you for the invite and the hospitality. It's much appreciated.
Doubt, dude. Man, we're doing it again for sure. Go ahead, Ant.
All right. Well, you can catch me on 2 shows. One is called Rant with Ant. Just look up Rant with Ant on anywhere you listen to your podcast. You will find it. The other is on the same network. It is called The E is for Elite, where me and my co-host G-Rod break down everything happening in all Elite Wrestling. That show is very periodic because there's not a weekly television show yet.
Yeah.
For all your NXT coverage, listen to Who Got Next every Friday on the Rant with Ant network. If that doesn't do all the wrestling talk and you listen to all these guys, you want to listen to more, Wrestle Addict Radio. Look it up. We have 5 shows on it. Just tons of wrestling talk, a bunch of different shows. Like no one's the same because that's what I like to be. It's like a very inclusive community. Go to patreon.com/Rant with Ant. $1 gets you in the chat. We do a bunch of fun stuff, fun hangouts, fun get-togethers, stuff like the gala, video content, the whole 9 yards. Represent.com/store/Rant with Ant. There's like 42 shirt designs. I am the Young Bucks of podcast merchandise.
Good for you.
Because I have no life and I love Photoshop, so I create all night long. Thank you guys for your hospitality. Couldn't ask for a better group of people to do this with.
I appreciate it so much, man. Andrew, close it out, my man.
Mattman Podcast, where everywhere podcasts are available. Rich and I do it every Thursday live. Except for this Thursday, because I have to be at court tomorrow, which is not a... I'll tell you guys off the air. If you guys are sports fans, you might kind of enjoy this conversation that we'll have when we turn off. But I'm not
mad that the Mets didn't sign Bryce Harper.
Oh, man. I got so fucking mad. I strangled somebody. I went to the Wilpons and harassed them for a while. No, Rich and I do this 5 years in doing a pro wrestling show. We do a bunch of interviews now. So actually, I'd love to have you guys on the show. But we do weekly interviews now, and I do anything I do is at gfknetwork.com. You can follow me at Andrew Zarian on Twitter.
My man, Will.
Yes, indeed. We survived.
We did it. We did it. Yeah, we did it. Well, you know where to find us at, right?
Oh, yes, of course. I'm at Heel Will Mahoney on Twitter, always talking the wrestling and talking about snacks with the Snack Society, whether it be these new rattlesnake fries that Taco Bell put out that are kind of crazy, or new Oreos, as we always know that we always bring those around to the wrestling shows when we have our appearances at Nova Pro. But yeah, I guess we got to figure the big gold belts. I guess presence at WrestleMania has to be all sorted out, or where we're gonna be.
Well,
Between the shows
you're gonna be with me. So
between that and the shows in Jersey City, since we got Nova running out there, and all those other companies that doing the collective.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing going on with the Darna WrestleMania being in New York is everything is so spread out and nothing's conveniently located to each other.
New Orleans each and every year, please.
Yeah. Everyone's having to pick a spot and hunker down, but we'll be up there one way or another. But I love how this turned out. This was awesome. Covered a lot of stuff tonight, and just imagine we got 4 weeks to WrestleMania, so there's only more coming.
Yeah. Again, you can find us at biggoldbeltgroup.com. You get all your other information and other content and stuff there. Won't talk about it too much because it's not about me today. It's about this All-Star Roundtable cast that we had. It's been amazing. I hope you guys had fun. We definitely got to do it again. Hopefully we can do something in person all together one day. That should be fun. But again, I appreciate you all's time for sure. Everybody that's been listening, I appreciate your love and support. Make sure you check them out. All their information will be in the description below in this video. If you listen to the podcast, same thing there. And again, we'll catch you. We are signing out.